Hi there. And people say that they value the truth. I personally do not value the truth so much. I think it's more important to be very selective in the truths that one chooses to engage with. But for those people who are all about truth, well, I will lay down a number of truths here that are all kind of nicely interconnected. So let's talk some truths. The first one, and most obvious, is climate change. Climate change is unstoppable. We are looking at a point of no return. Whether we have already crossed that threshold or are still approaching it doesn't matter. We're not going to change our habits. As humanity, as civilization, we are on a one-way street, and whether we accelerate or keep pace or try to brake, there's no hope. In the next decades, we expect that we will face increasingly the consequences of what we have already unleashed. And it will continue progressively to get worse because we cannot, we will not, but we cannot change our ways. Things like electrification of transport and renewable energy only slow things down so much. And I mean, by fractional amounts, small fractional amounts. We are still expanding our emissions regardless, and it cannot be stopped. So we will face those consequences, and we will lose coastal cities. We will have lots of people who are going to die because of excessive heat. And that leads to climate change and severe weather events. We are going to see more severe flooding, severe droughts, severe heat, and also extreme cold snaps. And what that means is burning more energy in order to try and maintain, keep those people alive, keep them from suffering from excessive heat, keep them warm when you have those occasional excessive cold snaps, try and lead recovery efforts, and so forth. In the meantime, those extreme weather events mean more crop failures and knocking out one of the foundational requirements for wild species to adapt. So a lot of the foundational species that we need in order for our ecological web to continue to exist are just going to get knocked out. And we're seeing that with krill. To an extent, we're seeing that with bees. We're seeing this with all manner of bugs. The numbers are just going down. And there are a number of other interconnected reasons for that, but climate change and the inability for wild species to adapt to the rapid pace of change that we have brought about is a big factor in all this. So what all of this means is the food supply and water supplies globally, there's going to be a lot of people and other species that are going to be under threat. And when people cannot eat, when they cannot drink, when they go hungry or thirsty, those are people that will get desperate. And we do have a global ability to transport people within days, almost anywhere on the planet, which means that we are looking at no ways to contain what's coming for vulnerable countries. Expect to see more geopolitical tensions, more acts of terrorism, potentially war, as people and the governments that represent those people become increasingly desperate. So at a time when things are going to get tighter and more challenging, look for the stability of the world to fall apart. All of this is playing out in a backdrop of economic stagnation, population stagnation, greater economic inequality, the failure of traditional free market capitalism, which is a whole thing unto itself. The issue there is a combination of increasing specialization over time, the influence that wealth or capital has over government, and government has over wealth, and that inextricable link that ends up rewarding those with wealth to succeed with more wealth. And that kills the traditional capitalism foundation of meritocracy, that people, if they only work hard enough, if they're smart enough, they have good enough ideas and execute on those ideas, they have opportunity. That's really becoming less and less the case. It is much more the case now that there's nepotism, there's wealth, there are people who will spend their entire lives being parasites, not having to do a single day of work in their lives. That, I don't begrudge that. I know some people who are trust fund kids and their lives are not good. But it does mean that we have upended our capitalist system for something else that we still pretend is capitalism, but really isn't. It's sort of this pseudo stagnated post-capitalist setup. So anyway, part of that is because of the sophistication of global logistics and supply chains. You just can't do capitalism when it isn't just simple widgets and raw materials being turned to finished product, but there's dozens, if not 100 or more stages, including some highly specialized materials and components production that goes into a final product. That creates, again, through geopolitical stability, all sorts of greater issues with manufacturing, and all of the wheels, expect the wheels of that to come off as well as we continue to hit those sustainability tipping points. Excuse me. So, those are some truths. Against this whole background, as if there weren't enough pressure already, we will see the continuing decline and failure of antibiotics and pesticides as we get more resistant species and resistant strains that will put even more pressure on humanity. There's people who are looking for good news in all of this. I'm afraid I have very little to give. I guess the good news is that we are alive now. And so as things get progressively worse, we are in a place where it's as good as it's going to get. So let us try to make the most of the times that we have now and realize that even though there will be increasing distractions with new technology toys and such, the underpinnings are going to get quite dire. So anyway, those are some truths. It's not the truths that people want to hear, but people want to hear the truth, as they say. So the truth is that we are in dire straits, and we are only blessed with the fact that those dire straits are going to take a very long time to play out before we really face the full brunt of those consequences. But I don't envy the future generations that are going to live with the consequences of what the past generations have done. And I see no escape whatsoever from this. There's no technology that's going to save us this time from our own, from the last century plus of habits and systems that we have built up and the harms that those systems are doing to the collective planet that we still rely on to live. Anyway, next time I will come up with something more optimistic, but I thought that I would say something about the truth because I've heard that it is a popular topic that everyone wants to know about and hear about. So that's all I've got. Bye for now.